It is important to note that my name is Victoria Simmons, and I am a 62-year-old employee in the design department of a renowned stationery manufacturer. Despite reaching retirement age, I have chosen to continue working, determined not to be overshadowed by the younger generation. The passing of my husband 10 years ago and my daughter living on her own have given me the flexibility and motivation to stay active in my career. I must admit I take great pride in my work. Over the course of my 4-decade-long tenure with the company, I have had the opportunity to design an astounding 90% of our flagship products. These designs hold significant value as they cater to a wide range of individuals, from school children to professionals. Stationery is more than just paper and pens. It is a realm of possibilities where dreams are nurtured and creativity is unleashed. Each design I create serves a purpose, making tasks such as writing, drawing, painting, erasing, and measuring both functional and enjoyable. In light of my dedication and the value I have brought to the company, it was disheartening to see Carol face unexpected consequences following my departure. The abrupt loss of my expertise and the erasure of my designs undoubtedly presented her with a challenging situation. As I reflect on my future, I am uncertain how much longer I will be able to continue in this role. None of us can predict what lies ahead. However, my love for my job is unwavering, and I often jest with my younger colleagues that I will keep going until my legs give up on me. The older lady who happens to be me was terminated from my position at the company. I was instructed to clean up everything before leaving only Carol behind. The president's daughter, who took over as the head of the design department, seemed to be oblivious to the fact that I had been with the company for a remarkable 40 years and had contributed to 90% of our flagship products. This lack of recognition compelled me to take action. With determination, I decided to tidy up my work area before bidding farewell to the company. But I didn't stop there. I took it a step further and wiped all the data from my computer, leaving no trace of my hard work and expertise. This act was my way of showing Carol and the rest of the company that my contributions were invaluable, even if they were not fully acknowledged. With a final farewell, Kennedy departed the meeting, leaving behind a sense of optimism and excitement in the air. As the meeting concluded, one of my colleagues, Wilson, approached me with a thoughtful expression. We both couldn't help but ponder the significance of this new development and the potential impact it could have on our future. One fine morning, to everyone's surprise, the esteemed President Kennedy, with whom I had joined the company, made a grand entrance at our meeting. It had been quite some time since we last saw him grace our presence. Accompanying him was a woman whose presence added an air of curiosity to the room. With a warm smile, the president greeted everyone, remarking on the passage of time and how it seemed like ages since he had last seen us. I couldn't help but reminisce about our earlier days at the company, where Kennedy and I would often engage in conversations during our internal product presentations. Contrary to the stereotypical image of an arrogant offspring of a president, Kennedy exuded sincerity and humility. It had been a decade since he took over the role of the previous president, and he had proven himself to be a capable leader. Today, he introduced us to the replacement for our recently departed department head. With a gentle nudge, Kennedy encouraged the woman by his side, Carol, to greet the team. Stepping forward, Carol introduced herself with a warm hello, expressing her eagerness to contribute to the future growth of our company. It was clear that she was ready to collaborate and work together with all of us. The department was taken aback by this unexpected turn of events. No one had anticipated that the president's own daughter would be appointed as the new department head. As Kennedy explained, our company had ambitious plans to expand overseas, and Carol had been sent abroad to study extensively for this purpose. Her time spent abroad had equipped her with the necessary skills to create designs that would be globally competitive. Kennedy urged us all to come together and unite in this endeavor. Carol is someone I have known for a long time, ever since she was a young child. Although we have never had a conversation, I remember seeing her at company events accompanied by the president. It has been quite some time since I last saw her, and I must say she has grown into a remarkable young lady. It seems that the president sees potential in her international experience, although her understanding of the design industry remains uncertain. Only time will tell how she will fare in her new position. There was a noticeable hint of disdain on Wilson's face when Carol's name was mentioned. However, I reminded Wilson that we should stay focused on our own responsibilities. It was important to not let any personal opinions affect our work. Wilson acknowledged this and apologized for his initial reaction. Little did we know Wilson's instincts would prove to be accurate in the end. A month had passed since Carol took charge, and we continued our routine of brainstorming and designing at our computers. It was business as usual until one day when Carol gathered everyone in the room and announced that she had something important to share. As she confidently walked to the center of the room, all eyes were on her. Carol began to speak, revealing her plans to develop products for the international market, starting with the UK. If successful, Carol proposed establishing a base in London with the intention of expanding to other hub offices in various locations. Wilson's eyes widened in surprise at the ambitious plan. As a starting point, Carol announced that we would be developing new products. This new direction was unexpected, and it left us wondering how it would impact our work. Would we be able to adapt to the demands of the international market? Only time would tell if Carol's vision would lead to success or if it would be met with challenges and obstacles along the way. The internal competition took place weekly, and I couldn't help but wonder if it would be a success. I continued to search for new product ideas, hoping that items like Hollywood movies and American stationery could become popular worldwide. Unlike when I was younger, I found that I had fewer ideas as I aged, but each idea was of higher quality. Despite this, Carol seemed to expect consistent contributions from everyone. Over the past month, the team had been working diligently to meet expectations. The decision on ideas and designs would be made through an internal competition with the aim of selling existing products and creating new ones simultaneously. The new products are set to be released domestically and internationally in 6 months. When I asked Carol about the concept for product development, her friendly expression suddenly turned serious. She seemed surprised that I didn't mention a concept, implying that it should be the same as before. As the most experienced employee, she expected more from me. I was taken aback by her reaction. Carol emphasized that she didn't want anything outdated, with a composed demeanor, before returning to her desk. We have generated more than 200 ideas, with Wilson contributing 20% of them. However, it is not solely about the quantity of ideas, as we are uncertain of what the market expects. Therefore, we need to generate as many ideas as possible. I noticed that she was speaking directly to me, unaffected by the situation. In response, I discreetly winked at Wilson, who modestly gave a thumbs up. Although it is inevitable that some ideas may not materialize as professionals, we must question if this is acceptable. 5 ideas in a month might imply that we have exhausted our creativity after being in the industry for a long time. While I may not fully comprehend the intricacies of this field, it appears that we are not putting in enough effort. She looked directly at me, unwavering in her gaze. Even after the meeting, Wilson approached me and expressed gratitude, acknowledging that my way of expanding associations through innovative ideas was impressive. However, Carol's blatant approach is quite bothersome. Nevertheless, it's all right. It is true that we are not generating a significant number of ideas, but has she taken into consideration the quality of our ideas? Are we merely discussing numbers here? Does she truly understand? Well, maybe the British won't appreciate my ideas. Ultimately, the users will be the ones to pass judgment. Another month passed, during which we refined our ideas and developed approximately 50 specific products based on them. None of my ideas were selected, but approximately 5 of my designs were nominated. Carol was not pleased with the situation. Today, a buyer from the UK named Mr. Lee was scheduled to visit the agency to potentially take over operations there. The goal was to make a decision that day, or at least narrow it down to 5 potential candidates, especially focusing on the younger ones. Carol and Mr. Lee headed to the conference room in the afternoon and returned after 3 hours. Wilson was congratulated by Carol for potentially having one of his designs chosen. Wilson seemed surprised by the news. Despite feeling happy for Wilson, Carol couldn't help but express some bitterness towards the situation. Carol acknowledged that Wilson's design was favored by Mr. Lee and herself, but also noted the difficulty in catering to the preferences of the younger generation. Carol's frustration with being overlooked in favor of Wilson's designs was evident, but she also expressed genuine happiness for her colleagues' success. Carol's frustration with the situation was evident as she criticized Wilson's perceived arrogance despite his limited contribution of ideas. I found her comment about being an older lady to be unnecessary and uncalled for. Nevertheless, I understood that I needed to clean up everything before leaving, but I couldn't help but worry about what would happen next. However, she seemed dismissive of my concerns, insisting that the department would rejuvenate with young energy and everything would be fine. She laughed triumphantly as if her anger had subsided. Relieved to hear that, I agreed to start cleaning up right away. The unexpected remark from her about everyone respecting me just because I've been here the longest ignited a surge of anger within me. I couldn't believe she saw me in that light. However, I couldn't help but question her knowledge of design and the process of selecting ideas and designs. None of the work she favored made it into the final selection, showing a lack of understanding and a lack of a professional eye. In that moment, she lost her composure and approached me with bloodshot eyes. As a manager, she declared that I was done and fired on the spot. Surprised by her sudden change, I didn't resist her command to leave. The following morning, I awakened to the brightness of the sun streaming through the window. It became apparent that I had experienced my first drunken night in many years. I couldn't even recall the last time I had felt this way. The hangover from the previous night had left me in a state of disarray as I had forgotten to close the curtains on the east-facing window. I groaned in discomfort as I made my way to the kitchen, desperately seeking relief. I reached into the fridge and grabbed a bottle of water, quickly gulping it down in an attempt to alleviate my symptoms. She commented, "Wow, that was quick," and accepted the letter with a refreshing smile. I tried my best to appear relieved, but I couldn't gauge how she truly perceived my decision. Throughout the rest of the day, I went around the office bidding farewell to my colleagues. As the day came to an end, they hastily organized a farewell party for me. To my surprise, the atmosphere quickly turned into a chorus of criticism and complaints about Carol, leaving me increasingly concerned about the future of the design department. I said in a monotone voice, devoid of any emotion, and started sorting through my belongings. There wasn't anything particularly important that needed to be kept or handed over, so I made the decision to discard almost everything. I made sure to save my designs on a memory stick, wiped all the data from my computer, and even cleared the shared memory on the internet. "Hey, Simmons," I reminded myself, "don't forget to submit your resignation. It's the rule after all." With that in mind, I quickly wrote my resignation letter and handed it over to my superior, who seemed impressed by my efficiency. I made a mental note to finally pursue the things I had always wanted to do. Just as I was pondering this, my phone began to ring. It was Kennedy on the other end. I was surprised by the early morning call and questioned his urgency. He requested my presence at the office even though I had resigned the day before. Feeling a sense of obligation, I agreed to his request and prepared to head to the office. As I sipped on a steaming cup of coffee to ease my throbbing headache, I pondered Kennedy's insistence. It seemed odd to demand my presence after I had officially resigned. Despite my reservations, I hailed a taxi and made my way to the office. Upon entering the president's office, I greeted Kennedy and apologized for the early summons. He explained that he wanted to discuss the events of the previous day, leading me to wonder about the true reason for his urgent request. I settled onto the couch in the living room, feeling a sense of emptiness wash over me. It was a strange feeling, one that I hadn't experienced since my college days, and it brought a faint sense of joy. Despite not feeling hungry, I considered making breakfast and taking things easy. I reminded myself that I had all the time in the world now. As I chuckled at my own thoughts, the idea of calling my daughter and paying her a visit crossed my mind. To my surprise, I heard my daughter Carol questioning her father's unexpected presence and their lack of prior plans. Kennedy sternly responded, requesting clarification on Victoria's resignation. Carol initially responded in a formal manner, stating that it was due to personal reasons. However, Kennedy saw through her lie and confronted her, stating that she left because of her age. This revelation left all the staff in the surrounding area speechless. During our conversation, I made sure to provide a thorough explanation without exaggerating my words or reactions. I acknowledged his apology and expressed my understanding. As her father, I took responsibility for the mess created by my foolish daughter, realizing that I may have made mistakes in raising her. In light of our shared history, I humbly requested Victoria to reconsider her resignation, highlighting the gratitude I held for being employed by him for a significant period of time. However, I was taken aback by President Kennedy's words, feeling that it was unfair for him to use our past against me. Despite this, I agreed to his request and placed my trust in him. The following morning, as I entered the design department office, I was instructed to wait in the hallway with the door slightly ajar, allowing me to overhear the conversation inside. Carol struggled to comprehend the situation and questioned the truth of Victoria's words in a moment of frustration. Carol collapsed to the floor, feeling overwhelmed by the gravity of the situation. Kennedy emphasized the importance of Victoria's contributions to the company, highlighting her dedication and irreplaceable role in the design department. This confrontation between Carol and Kennedy took on a parental tone, with Kennedy asserting Victoria's value and Carol facing the reality of her actions. The conversation revealed the significance of loyalty and dedication in the workplace, underscoring the importance of appreciating and recognizing the contributions of long-serving employees like Victoria. I have heard all the details of what transpired, so there's no use in lying. Carol gave a sharp look to the employees who were present, suspecting that someone had spilled the secret. Suddenly, Kennedy spoke up, warning not to make a fool out of him. This caught Carol off guard, causing her eyes to widen in surprise. Just then, Victoria entered the room, having been called by Carol. Victoria confirmed the information, leaving Carol in a state of shock. After being scolded like a petulant child, Carol couldn't help but express her frustration at the lack of communication. Laughter erupted from the staff, further infuriating Carol, who shot them a glare. Realizing the gravity of the situation, Kennedy turned his attention towards the staff and sincerely apologized, taking full responsibility as Carol's father. It was clear that Carol had never wanted to be in this department, blaming her father for her predicament and feeling as though her blood vessels might burst from the stress. Carol's harsh words caught both Kennedy and Carol off guard as she declared her decision to leave her managerial role, believing that she was not cut out for it. She even went as far as to say that she had a fatal flaw as a professional. Carol reminded Kennedy of their previous conversation where she was referred to as an older lady, emphasizing his lack of judgment and design. The situation left Carol in a state of shock, but she ultimately decided to return to work for the sake of the president and the design department. She made it clear that she would cherish her passion and apologized for her outburst to Kennedy, who shook his head and reassured her that there was no need to apologize. Lee had relayed to Kennedy that although my design had been his top choice, Carroll's persistent insistence and persuasive tactics had led him to reluctantly choose Wilson's design instead. He had found it incredibly difficult to let go of my design and had felt compelled to reach out. It appeared that Carroll had finally accepted the situation and come to terms with it. The weight of disappointment and defeat seemed to crush her as she wilted, resembling a sunflower past its prime. Aware of the need for clarity, Kennedy gathered the staff and laid out the conditions for Carroll's future within the company. Carroll was once again biting her lip in frustration, her gaze fixed downwards. Just as her frustration reached its peak, a loud ring interrupted the tense atmosphere. Surprisingly, it was Carroll's phone that was ringing. Hesitating for a moment, Kennedy decided to answer it instead. The caller on the other end turned out to be Lee. As Kennedy listened attentively, their expressions shifted between nods of understanding and moments of surprise, eventually concluding the call on a positive note, expressing apologies for any inconvenience caused and emphasizing the importance of future collaboration. The call seemed to be regarding the selection of a design. After Kennedy and Carroll left the room, the remaining staff members surrounded me, their faces beaming with joy. Though it was an unfortunate outcome for Wilson, they couldn't help but express their happiness for me. "See, I told you this was for the best," one of them exclaimed, a genuine smile gracing their lips. And indeed, it seemed that this turn of events was indeed for the best. The outcome with Carroll confirmed initial feelings and highlighted the importance of intuition in design. Our successful market expansion into the UK, targeting teenagers, revealed similarities and sensibilities between American and British youth, a surprising discovery in the age of global social media. This realization has led me to believe that designs for American consumers could have international appeal. The rapid sharing of sensibilities across borders has exceeded expectations, and I am energized by the global impact of my work. Despite being surprised by this turn of events, I am more motivated than ever to keep pushing boundaries. Tonight, my daughter will have to settle for another video call as I continue to immerse myself in this